Hi, girl bosses, gays, and theys. I've returned, unfortunately, and I'm back at it again with another deep dive into the psychology of fictional characters. Why? Because I have nothing better to do with my life. So, in today's video, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the psychology of Papyrus from Undertale. Undertale is definitely one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely adore the Skelebros, so this is gonna be fun. I do have to put in a little disclaimer here. Obviously, I'm not a psychologist. I can't properly diagnose these characters, and I have no idea what Toby Fox's true intentions were with these characters, so I can't diagnose them even if I was a psychologist. Thank you. Okay, now obviously, anyone who's played Undertale or has known Undertale for a long time knows that Papyrus is literally the most innocent, loving, adorable characters in the whole game. Like, he is made of angel's tears, okay? So this really begs the question, like, how did Papyrus turn out the way he did? Why is he this loving and caring? And I feel to properly take a good look at that, we're going to have to go back into his family dynamic, or like his childhood, especially. Because early childhood definitely affects how someone develops mentally and how they become who they become. So for this, I'm going to base my logic off of the theory that Gaster created Sans and Papyrus and, in a sense, raised them. Obviously, the bits and pieces we are given of Gaster and what he was like is very few. But what we do probably know, going off that theory that I mentioned before, is that he was the royal scientist, and therefore he would probably be very busy, very enveloped in his studies. And that would mean that he probably didn't have a lot of time to actually properly parent Sans and Papyrus. Now, why is this important? As I mentioned before, early childhood development is highly key to how a person responds to stimuli in the future, how they act, what their mental status may be. It will definitely affect what mental illnesses they may develop. So these experiences that Sans and Papyrus had with Gaster growing up definitely impacts who they are in current times. So how does neglectful parenting affect Sans and Papyrus in this case? A lack of affection and attention at a young age can lead to low self-esteem or emotional neediness in other relationships, which we can absolutely see in both Sans and Papyrus. Now, Sans' mental state isn't the best. Anyone in the fandom will tell you that, and probably give you a very long video essay on why, like kind of what I'm doing, except with Papyrus. But he definitely has this low self-esteem. He gave up on trying to find the surface, and I think he feels like he can't do it. No matter how hard he tries, he feels like it isn't enough. He feels hopeless, and he's got a lot of symptoms of like kind of a depressive state. He's very much, antisocial, stays in his room, doesn't do much, sleeps a lot, very exhausted. This depressive state Sans is in makes it so that he's very dependent on Papyrus. He sees Papyrus as his safe place, and he's very clearly emotionally attached to Papyrus. Very attached. And we can absolutely see the emotional neediness Papyrus has when it comes to Sans. Papyrus cares for Sans very deeply, and he cares for him to such an extent that he has almost like a savior complex. Now, as some of you Undertale fans may have already guessed, Papyrus doesn't show emotional neediness just for Sans. He also shows this emotional neediness for anyone he comes into close contact with. In fact, Undyne won't even let him into the Royal Guard for this specific reason. According to this source, an uninvolved, a neglected child may have social skills that aren't the best. And we can totally see that in Papyrus as well. The date that we supposedly go on with him doesn't really pan out as expected, and Papyrus can't really pick up on a lot of social cues. This may stem as a result of Gaster's neglectful parenting.
Yes.
Papyrus also suffers from low self-esteem. He tries to boost himself up by saying, he's popular, he's cool, but we can totally see that he's kind of deflecting onto you. He's pretending to pity you, when in reality he feels bad about how he is. Now, that begs the question. If they are both raised under the same circumstances, why are Sans and Papyrus like polar opposites? The answer is actually quite simple. Sans could easily, being perceptive as he is, have seen that Gaster was being a little neglectful, and he could have seen Papyrus, and he could have taken responsibility as a parental figure in Papyrus's life, and helped Papyrus. However, this is a great burden for a kid to carry, right? So Sans was probably struggling a lot. And I think Papyrus probably saw that and felt responsible, and so he's taken on this savior complex. Yes, this is WikiHow. I have no idea how accurate this is, but I did check this article, and apparently it has been reviewed by a psychiatrist, or a counselor, sorry. But apparently, savior complex, they do come from neglect. So it would fit in with the fact that Papyrus and Sans were probably neglected in childhood. Anyways, that is why I believe Papyrus is the way he is. Obviously, this is just a theory, and I don't know for certain if this is actually how it is or if it isn't. But it's just my take on how I think Papyrus became the person he is. Anyways, thank you for listening to me ramble for almost 10 minutes. Means a lot to me. If you did like this, please comment, like, or subscribe. If you don't, that's totally cool. Yeah, hope you have a good day or good night wherever you are. Have a good rest of your time, bestie. I don't know. Slay!